In 2021, scientists did what history books never could. They locked the Viking presence in America to a single year, 1021 CE, 471 years before Columbus. This proof didn't come from legends or sagas, but from a cosmic fingerprint preserved in 3 pieces of wood. What they discovered wasn't just earlier, it reshaped the entire timeline of European exploration. And the deeper story of why the Vikings came, how far they traveled, and why they ultimately left is only now coming into focus. The evidence challenges almost everything we thought we knew, if you know where to look. In the year 993, a powerful solar storm struck Earth, sending a surge of radiation into the atmosphere. That event left a sharp, unmistakable spike of carbon-14. Every tree alive at that moment absorbed the signal and locked it into its growth rings. For decades, carbon dating at Meadows could only narrow Viking activity to a span of centuries. The margin of error was too wide. But in a lab at the University of Groningen, Michael D. and his team found a way past that uncertainty. They examined 3 wooden fragments, each from a different tree, each with its bark edge still intact. Using a mass spectrometer, they measured carbon-14 levels ring by ring, searching for the telltale spike from 993. Once they found it, they counted forward, 28 rings, 1 for each passing year. The final ring reached the bark, marking the exact year the tree was cut. All 3 samples led to the same result, 1021 CE. Not an estimate, a fixed moment in time. The odds that 3 separate trees, all cut by Vikings, would point to the same year by coincidence are astronomically small. The method even revealed the season when the trees were felled. For the first time, European presence in the Americas before Columbus became a matter of scientific record, not legend. A cosmic fingerprint in ancient wood closed the gap between saga and certainty. The once blurred timeline of exploration snapped into sharp focus. On the northern tip of Newfoundland, 8 turf and timber buildings rise from the boggy ground. Their thick walls were built to withstand brutal North Atlantic winds. One structure stretches nearly 60 feet, a longhouse unmistakably Norse in design. In 1960, Helge Ingstad and Anne Stein Ingstad uncovered these remains, revealing a Viking base camp thousands of miles from Scandinavia. Scattered across the site, wood chips and scraps show the clean, angled cuts of metal axes. Local indigenous peoples used stone tools. Metal blades belonged to the Vikings. The evidence is direct, physical, and undeniable. Inside a small workshop, archaeologists uncovered a smithy where iron was smelted and tools repaired. Every artifact pointed to a community skilled in shipbuilding and woodcraft, far from home yet well prepared.
Decades after the first excavation, a new chapter began in a freezer in Nova Scotia. Brigida Wallace, who spent years working at Meadows, preserved hundreds of wooden fragments in cold storage. She believed future science might reveal what the tools of the 1970s could not. Marked by Viking axes and protected from decay, the wood waited quietly for technology to catch up. When the samples finally reached the lab, they were in pristine condition, ready to unlock secrets that would transform our understanding of early transatlantic contact. This frozen archive, patiently preserved for decades, became the key to confirming the Viking presence in North America as fact, written in wood and earth. Then came another clue. 3 butternut shells and a piece of butternut wood were found in the midden at Meadows. Butternut trees do not grow in Newfoundland. Their natural range ends nearly 1,000 kilometers to the south in what is now New Brunswick. The shells were unmistakable, Juglans cinerea, native to forests along the St. Lawrence River and throughout the Canadian Maritimes. No Viking ship could have drifted into a butternut grove by accident. Someone traveled south, found the trees, gathered the nuts, and carried them back to the northern base camp. The sagas called this land Vinland, Wineland, named for wild grapes. Grapes don't grow in Newfoundland either, but they do grow in the same regions as butternuts.
The geography aligns. The old Norse stories of explorers sailing along endless coastlines, searching for timber and resources, begin to read less like myth and more like travel logs. No indigenous group in Newfoundland used butternuts for food or tools. The shells and wood arrived with the Vikings, carried by hand or in the hold of a longship. These southern botanical clues, out of place in a northern bog, show that the Norse didn't just reach North America, they explored it. The evidence points to repeated voyages, scouting missions, supply runs, and exploration far beyond the windswept tip of Newfoundland. Meadows was not the end of the journey, it was the beginning. Gudrid Torbjarnadottir stepped ashore in the New World carrying more than supplies. She carried her unborn child. The sagas remember her as a seasoned traveler who had already crossed the North Atlantic once, a rare feat in the early 11th century, especially for a woman. On the Vinland expedition, she and her husband, Thorfinn Karlsefni, set out to trade, explore, and build a future. Gudrid gave birth to a son, Snorri Thorfinnsson, the earliest known child of European parents born in the Americas, around the year 1005. His earliest years were spent within the turf walls of the Viking camp. When the family eventually returned to Iceland, their story endured. Gudrid later made a pilgrimage to Rome, her journey recorded in medieval texts. Snorri's descendants became bishops, their names woven into Icelandic history. The Vinland story is not just about distant voyages. It is about families, beginnings, and legacies that crossed oceans. Trade with indigenous peoples began peacefully. Milk, cloth, and furs exchanged, but trust did not last. The sagas describe a bull from Greenland charging out of the woods, terrifying the local people. Fear turned into anger. Violence followed. During one attack, as the men retreated, a pregnant woman named Freydis seized a fallen sword and stood her ground. Her defiance stalled the attackers, but it could not change the reality. Scandinavia had fewer than 1 million people. Viking Greenland held only a few thousand. Eastern North America was home to hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions. The Vikings were outsiders, vastly outnumbered in a land already claimed. Over the course of a few decades, spread across roughly 30 years, they came to understand the truth. No matter their courage or skill, they could not hold the land. The base camp at Meadows was abandoned. Its walls were left to the wind, moss, and time. Today, researchers are retracing Viking footsteps using tools the Norse could never have imagined. High-resolution satellite imagery scans hundreds of kilometers of Newfoundland and Labrador's rugged coastline, searching for subtle signs, rectangular patterns in bogs, faint traces beneath moss that might reveal buried walls or ancient hearths. At the same time, geneticists follow another trail. DNA from Viking-age walrus ivory found in medieval European churches and graves reveals trade routes stretching deep into the high Arctic. These paths connect Norse Greenland to distant hunting grounds, suggesting a vast network spanning thousands of miles. The sagas spoke of multiple Vinland camps, yet so far only Meadows has been confirmed. The unanswered questions drive the search. How many sites remain hidden? How far did the Vikings truly go? With every new scan and every DNA sample, the map of Norse exploration grows. The next breakthrough may lie beneath a patch of tundra or within a fragment of bone, waiting to rewrite the story once again. The exact date, 1021 CE, changes who touched American shores first. And as new technology continues to scan the coastlines, the story keeps evolving. Science has shown that legends can become fact. The real question now is this: how many other truths have been waiting, frozen in time, to be discovered?